All right, you have made it to session 4. There's only 5. You got one more to go. One more. Session 4. In Luke 11, 5 to 13, Jesus says, "Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be open to you." And when Jesus says that verse, it's a really popular verse. You've probably heard that before. When Jesus says that verse, he's talking about what's called intercessory prayer. Now, intercessory prayer sounds technical, doesn't it? Right? It sounds really fancy, but it's not. Okay? Don't let the name throw you off. Oh, this is too advanced for me. No, hang with me here. Intercessory prayer is just another way of saying that we are going to God on behalf of someone or something. So here's the deal. You have already done intercessory prayer. Odds are really good you've done it today. Every single time you pray for your family, that's intercessory prayer. When you pray for someone, maybe somebody to be healed, you pray for a lost person to be saved, you are doing intercessory prayer. You pray for your school, your business, your street, the world. You are doing intercessory prayer. And this is the way that Jesus told us to pray. Jesus told us to pray, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." That is intercessory prayer. And so one of the most powerful things that a follower of Jesus can do is stand in the gap. Stand in the gap through prayer between God and the people that you're with, the places where God has put you. Intercessory prayer is one of the most powerful things and privileges we have as followers of Jesus. In fact, and we've already said this in the prayer course, but we'll say it again because it applies really specifically to intercessory prayer. Prayer changes things. Prayer changes things. That's what asking, seeking, knocking means. And here's the thing. Jesus doesn't tell us how many times to knock. He just says knock. He doesn't tell us how many times to ask. He just says to ask. And as you pray, I bet you can already tell a story about this. I bet there have been times where you've asked God for something and the door was opened, but not in a way that you asked, maybe even in a way that's better than the way that you had asked. Sometimes you ask and the door is opened exactly the way that you pray it is. Other times you ask, you seek, you knock, and that door is open. God moves in a way that's unexpected. You weren't even praying that way, but He did it, and He did above and beyond everything that you could ask or imagine. Prayer changes things. But not only does prayer change things, we need to understand that prayer is our calling. This is really important. As a follower of Jesus, you have been called to prayer. You've been called to intercessory prayer. And the devil is going to go all in to get you to not believe this, okay? Listen to me. The devil is going to throw all your past sin at you. The devil's going to throw all this junk at you. You did this. Real Christians don't struggle with this. If you really love Jesus, you wouldn't have this issue in your life. Do you think God's going to listen to you pray? And on and on and on. Listen, everything the devil is ever going to try to condemn you with, Jesus faced it on the cross. He didn't stay dead. He overcame it. He's alive today. Jesus has been resurrected from the dead. All of the stuff in your life, in your past, present, and future that the devil wants to condemn you for, it is under the feet of Jesus. You have, as a son or a daughter of God, you have heaven's attention. You have God's ear. And listen, I didn't make that up. That's what God said. So prayer is your calling. In the book of 1 Peter, it says that the church, you and I, as followers of Jesus, we are a royal priesthood. And a priest stands in the gap between God and the people. And that is your calling. If you're watching this and you're a student, you are a priest at your school. You're supposed to stand in the gap between God and your school. How do you do it? Pray for your school. You stand in the gap for your family. How? Through prayer. You stand in the gap for Hazard, for Eastern Kentucky. You, as a royal priesthood, you can stand in the gap for the entire world. And the world doesn't even know it, but you are on your knees at home, or you a group at church. You are crying out to God for the world. Prayer changes things, but prayer is our calling. We have been called as the church to pray. And so what that means, let's just get really practical. What that means is we should pray specifically and boldly. If prayer changes things and prayer is our calling, then we should pray specifically and boldly. Take a sheet of paper, pull out a journal, maybe use the notes app on your phone. Put down the names of lost people, people that do not know Jesus. Put those names down. Pray for those people by name to be saved. If you know some people that you want to see healed, put their names down. Maybe you want to put down things that you are praying for, and as God begins to answer those prayers, put down in that app, on that piece of paper, how God is beginning to answer that prayer. This goes back to our last session about how God is writing a larger story. One of the most amazing things, encouraging things that you can do is write down what your prayer requests are, and as God begins to move in those things you're praying about, write down all the ways that He's answering that. And what you're going to see is God is writing a story of prayer in your life. God is writing a story of prayer in your life. Pray specifically and boldly. If God answered every prayer that we prayed over the last 7 days and nothing changes, something's wrong. Let that not be said of us. Let it not be said of us. So I want to encourage you. Here's some practical things that you can do. We've already said, take a journal, app, maybe a note card. What are you asking, seeking, knocking for? And as God begins to answer those, keep writing those down. Watch the story that God begins to write through prayer in your life. But here's another question. Where has God put you? Who are the people in your life? What are the things that God is showing you that you need to stand in the gap for? Prayer changes things. Prayer is our calling, so pray specifically and boldly. That's intercessory prayer. It's praying for needs, praying for requests, going to God, asking for the kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. It's one of the greatest privileges we have. Do not let the enemy lie to you. It's your birthright, intercessory prayer. It's your birthright as a child of God. Calling of God on your life is to be a man or a woman of prayer.